Okay, greetings everyone. I guess there have been some minor issues of howsoever with MS Teams. But before we go ahead, I think we are waiting for Shanti, and we are waiting for our committee members, hopefully. So Nupur will be joining from the Research Ethics Committee. Yeah, links have been shared. Uh, but yeah, if there's any, I hope I'm audible to all, right? I hope so. Uh,
I can hear you.
Okay, that's great. That's great. Yeah, hi Shirsha, I'm so sorry. So there was some link issue, if I'm right. The new,
Yeah. The other link with the invite is not working. So yeah, but this was good this time. Thank you for sharing this.
yeah, actually, so what happens was earlier, whenever we used to do meetings, we used to convert them into webinar without any hassle, and anyone could register. This time, smart people at Microsoft changed everything. They said webinar is different, meeting is different, and I'm like, okay. So we were stuck with a problem, which is why we had to send invites again, and then this whole confusion happened. So yeah, so sorry for that. Uh, and hi Bogdan, happy to have you again.
Hi everyone.
Uh, Shirsha, I have a request, if possible. We will send the email. We will send a mail maybe with this link if necessary. But if it's possible, could you pass on the link to Shanti? I mean, we'll try also from our end as well. But if in case, because I think once we have, I think we may anyways begin with the discussion. Uh, we're also looking out for committee members to join ASAP. But let's see. Although we had registrations for sure, but I don't know. But yeah, I mean, I hope you
Are you
won't mind.
okay if I pass the link to her? This link?
Sure,
Can I
sure. I
go?
mean, yeah, anyone can join. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So registration is possible. I don't know. Maybe there's some issue with Teams, but anyone can join. Yeah, yeah. So I think once we have Shanti and Nupur, I think then we'll anyways begin, and we'll try our best to get the recording out by tonight. So it will be on YouTube and Twitter, LinkedIn, wherever we can post. So yeah, that won't be a problem. But yeah, I think most probably it would be a 101 discussion to start with because I think we haven't done panels or sessions, so this is more like a conversation to try to narrow down on what specific kinds of Gen AI aspects we are addressing. On cybersecurity, there already are interesting risks ahead. So yeah. that's definitely out there. So I think that's definitely the case. Uh, yeah. So we have one of the committee members already, Malak. Hi, Malak. You can also participate as a committee member if you have any points or questions or things to add. You can add in the middle. So yeah, you wish to say something up to you. Yeah, be a problem. Okay, so I think we have Nupur as well in the meeting. Uh, so I think we should just wait for uh, maybe Shanti, and then I think we can go ahead. Maybe we should, anyways, start. So I think people will join in because we are receiving feedback about some link issues. But yeah, we're trying to coordinate. But yeah, anyways, so I think so. Okay, maybe just 2 more minutes, and then I think we should try to start anyhow. And I think then, with some introductions, uh, we can go ahead.
Sure, Ravi.
Yeah. Okay, hi. We'll be beginning in nearly a minute or so. So we apologize for the link issues with MS Teams. Maybe there've been some problems around. We tried our best. Anyways, in case any of your colleagues has missed out and there have been link issues, you can share the same link to them and they can try to join. Because we have been kind of waiting because even our panelists had issues. So this doesn't happen usually, but it just happened today. But anyways, so I think we should go ahead. Uh, Panelists who wish to, open your cameras at their wish, they can do so. The recording is already initiated. So let us begin with the session right away. Uh, my name is Bogdan. I am the founder and chairperson of ISAIL. What is ISAIL? What is the Indian Society of AI and Law? We are an industry forum which focuses on AI standardization with a larger Indian context for the betterment of the Indian AI community. The larger problems we sustain and see in India is that AI is becoming a nascent thing in terms of its evolution. But the thing is that standardization itself becomes a challenge because making it viable and possible is a hard thing to achieve. So, in that regard, let me welcome all the experts in this session. We also have one more expert who we would await as we will be having her. So let me introduce Dr. Chiranjiv Roy, Shirsha Chaudhari, and Bogdan Grigorescu from the ISAIL Advisory Council. Uh, with respect to all of them, they are specialists from the technology side. So we have one person from the legal side, of course, from the Research Ethics Committee, Nupur Shah. When it comes to Dr. Roy, he's currently the Vice President / Global Head of Data Sciences and Applied AI at COS5i. Shirsha is at Thomson Reuters, Director of Engineering at TR Labs. Bogdan is the Vice President of the ISAIL Advisory Council, somebody who's long been attached to us since I think now a long time now, and he's currently the Senior Technical Lead of Architecture at eBay UK. Nupur Shah, who is chairing the session from behalf of the committee, is from the Research Ethics Committee. She's herself an intellectual property lawyer and also specialized in technology law. So, and we have Malak Seth, who's also joining on behalf of the Research Ethics Committee. So, let's take this conversation forward. Those who are not able to join due to the technical issues, we apologize before this happens. We did not anticipate Microsoft Teams to fail. Maybe it happened due to the July 19th situation. Maybe we don't know. So we apologize. But anyways, the recording will be out on YouTube by tonight on Bharat Pacific, on Twitter and YouTube. So we can share that recording. So I think we should narrow down the purpose of the discussion because when we talk about AI and cybersecurity, the larger problems which arise are around the viability of Gen AI itself. Because the problem is that whatever causes information security and larger aspects of manipulation and problems, I think that needs to be narrowed down. So this committee session is pretty much academic, but in the sense that you know we should attempt this conversation to be more to narrow down what could be the you know emerging risks which are coming up, which what are the problems which are happening. For example, chatbots can definitely be used if they are not pen tested well, which is penetration testing, to leak certain information which they should not. Right? There are techniques to prevent that. That is definitely for chatbots like ChatGPT and others. But even beyond that, there are manipulative ways to you know uh, take out certain information of certain users of things and others. And it's not just about the socio-technical threats; it's also about the technical failures within these generative AI use cases. So I think in that case, I'll take this up and first let me ask Bogdan to add, and then I think Dr. Roy can add up and Shirsha can add up, and I think then we can take this conversation so that it becomes more like, because again we have 1.5 hours or 1 hours at least, so we have a good window to discuss, and whatever outputs will be there, we will publish them in a documentation in the coming weeks, so that way we can take it up. So Bogdan, I think we'll start with you. My specific question is, you already know about how Gen AI can be used in hacking of aspects, but if you have to introduce this to people to let them understand what's exactly happening beyond manipulation, what's the larger risk technically? What do you think?
Yeah, hi everyone. The 19 July CrowdStrike incident has not have any connections to security or cybersecurity as such. But that proves that bad code will cause widespread incidents, including security incidents. In this case, security is not cybersecurity, is baggage lost, people at risk in airports or in all sorts of places, i.e. personal security, that belongs in security and safety overall. The airport's chaos, which essentially render the airport vulnerable because it's chaos. So it's not just cybersecurity that's involved, and in fact 90% or about, well, vast majority, let's say, maybe 90% is not that precise of a proportion, but the vast majority of security incidents and breaches and exploits are not technical. Technology is used, of course, but the root cause and the whole paradigm is social engineering, which is of course psychology and behavioral and a few other things that are not technological. So, but that causes big security problems. If we've seen SolarWinds incidents of not too long ago, few years, about 3 years, that was a supply chain attack through social engineering. The Microsoft back-end penetration by the SVR, Russian SVR service, was through a Open 365 public cloud. Surprise, surprise. Not we are told the public cloud is super secure. Well, it's not really, but that's what the Cloudrat is out us to believe. An email address, Outlook 365, that was penetrated, sort of speak, but then an executive was phished. Phishing is social engineering. Yes, penetration of the email address, but if that executive wouldn't have been phished, the incident wouldn't have gone forward. So really it was about social engineering more than anything else. Of course, then other techniques were involved after that for months on end. With AI, the added problem is that it's automation at scale, bigger scale than anything else because it's not rules-based, and so makes horizontal propagation of breaches wider, possibly deeper, sometimes deeper, but much wider, which means much more complex and more difficult to detect, in the sense that, yes, the effect will be detected here and there, but that's not where it's happening. That's not where it's happening. So because a problem is, the cause of a problem is never the point of its manifestation, it's actually far away. If your computer all of a sudden has a blue screen and you say, well, the battery is gone out, why is it gone out? The real cause is somewhere away. It's not at all obvious, and it's never at the point of where you see the problem manifest itself. This is actually a law, never. So with security for AI, for where AI systems are involved, it's the same rule. It's just, it's much more widespread because of the nature of AI automation. With generative AI, there are added differences to this, which is, but they are not all exactly identical copy-paste. For example, a large language model that is used for generative AI purposes, an LLM, by the way, is not really a generative model by its definition, unless it's done in GPT architecture, then yes. But a large language model, like these models have been used for many, many years before GPT-1 in 2018. So it's wrong to say, well, LLM that's generative. No, it's not. It's not necessarily, not by its name. If it is GPT, yes, for sure. Otherwise, not really. But when it comes to generative LLMs, for example, which interact on browser, on app embedded, like say Microsoft Copilot for Bing and for Teams, it's embedded with the application. So you don't need special interface. It's a common user interface that everybody is already being using for years and years, so that everybody's familiar. And the interaction is in natural language, not natural language like you used to search on, say, Google 3 years ago. You just type expressions and phrases and stories and, you know, more or less as we speak today, not a few words or some super short sentence like in a Google, say, radio control weather stations in UK, best price. No, that's a little bit conversational too, but this is something like what is the what are the best known legal entrepreneurs in India in the domain of artificial intelligence and technology. Then Abhivarda names came up. But it was asked as I speak, literally as I speak. It can be copy pasted from other parts. Yes, a query can be copy paste, but here we're talking about copy pasting from documents, from previous conversation in WhatsApp, from like a myriad of places, and just with a very small tweak, one term here and there, you have a very different prompt or very similar prompt, but with a fundamentally different intention behind it, just because of that small quantitative change in the expression, the phrase that you use, which can be longer, few lines long, or it can just a one line. And the result will be very different, fundamentally different. When I say very different from security perspective is that the guardrails of the models are bypassed. A form of prompt engineering, a prompt injection to be more specific. And prompt injection is very old. They've been existing on SQL databases since the 90s, since the relational databases came about in around the 80s. This is not new. What is very new and novel is that is delivered in a conversational way. The conversational way, very conversational way, as we speak right now, but it's just in writing. In fact, it can be delivered through voice because OpenAI had a great idea of exponentially increasing the security liabilities of their products by making them multimodal. So now, actually, I can deliver it through a voice bot on the chip, more or less anywhere in the world, and even through recordings. I don't have to type. I don't have a bot to type anymore. I just speak into Alexa, for example, a home assistant. So the delivery mode is very ubiquitous, very natural. You don't need specialized tools like with SQL prompt injection. You need software, specialized software for that. And you need to know a little bit more about the databases and scripting and all. You don't need that here. You don't need that here. Pretty much everyone in the street that is tech savvy, no college required. Heck, no high school required. Just curiosity and a cheap, very cheap computer or smartphone is required. That's all that is, and obviously an internet connection of sorts. But these days, this is widespread. It's very accessible. That's the point I'm making. It's very accessible. While before, it has a high barrier entry. Now the barrier of entry is very low. which means much higher risk, as we've seen. The other, let's call it what, property of these systems is that they are statistical. All the output is, of course, a probability, nothing new there. However, when you keep prompting them in certain ways with something in mind, then you get past the implemented guardrails of these models, which, by the way, are not bad at all. They just can't cope with the nature of, their security liabilities. They just can't by architecture, by design. And so what does that mean? I mean, with the same intention, let's say it's not malicious, with the same intention, if I'm prompting a model with in very slightly different ways, I'm going to get very widely different results, not slightly different, but very different results. That's very important, because a seemingly normal, harmless prompt can actually be a security hack or result in a security hack because of the nature of these models, which is pure statistical. There's no world model or understanding or anything involved. Of course, no AI model has any understanding, but being so accessible and so conversational in voice, in text, even in images, change a pixel, one single pixel on an image, and is wrongly detected. Change the right pixels, and it's gonna detect in the way you want it to detect. Of course, it needs iteration for sure. It's not gonna be in one shot or two shots, but hey, it can be automated right on the chip. So you can try 1,000 times for $100. Less probably, less for $100 may buy you 5,000 or 10,000 tries. It's that low the barrier of an entry. So that is liability number 2, apart from accessibility. Liability number 3 is that this is unavoidable. It's unavoidable. It's gonna happen, it is happening, and it will be happening, and it will be worse than it is today. And today it was worse than it was a year ago. Simply because the barrier of entry keeps getting lower and lower. Simply because it gets easier and easier in a way. Not much easier every month, it's not that fast, of course, but more people become aware. That's the point. More people become aware because it's so easy by comparison to SQL prompt injection, where you have to understand databases, which are complicated stuff, pretty much. No matter what anyone says, and my SQL DB, it's easy. Yes, on your laptop, not on an enterprise system, is not. And you don't need a development environment. Like when you have to test your prompt injection on SQL DB, you need an IDE, a development environment of sorts. No matter how simple, it's still a little bit complex. You don't need that here. Just go on the web, perplexity.ai, and just try your hand at it. For example, I'm just saying, this is a differentiator compared to a few years ago, not many years ago. We're talking about 3 or so years ago. The other commonalities is, of course, the fact that the security parameter cannot be defined, because all these things run on the cloud, on a public cloud, most of them, vast majority of them, which means where security starts and ends cannot be asserted well. Yes, you say, but my endpoints. Well, what are your endpoints? Do you know what your endpoints are? You have an idea, but you don't know what they are. Why? Because of the automation that engages endpoints you don't know even they exist. They're not owned by you, but they surely impact you. So where the security ends? You can't know. Well, you have to assume the whole planet. That's your security parameter. It sounds like a joke, but it's not. So you have to design your security posture with that in mind. That's what I'm saying. It doesn't mean you can't. It means you have to have a different paradigm compared to a few years ago. And then there's the legal liabilities that come straight off of security. Not all of them, but some of them. Right? Right. You're saying we are abiding by ISO 27001. And we are certified. And we are selling our products and services based on these two. One of the criteria. And now all of a sudden, that 27001 certification, it's worthless. But you're making money out of it. Can you be sued about mis-selling? Maybe Bogdan will know better than me, but it could be a case. It could be a case, right? A legal liability right, a possible legal liability right there. I'm not saying it is, I'm just saying it can be. And others with data protection and this and that, you know, privacy is not the same as security, of course, but they are very strongly correlated, especially in the AI automation age that we are in. Why? Anyone feel secure when your privacy is exposed? Any one of you? Can anyone say, I have nothing to hide and therefore, you know, just see it all, have it all, and I'll be just fine? Can anyone even think of that? No, obviously not. Even an animal, a pet, a cat, a crow, a parrot, or you name it, they need a private space or else they get damage in their head. It's natural. It's the way life works. Everybody, even a plant needs privacy. If you expose a plant to ridiculous noise, it will just die. If you expose a plant to unwanted attention all the time, it's not going to develop anymore. Privacy is by design in life. So lack of privacy, why is that a security risk? Well, simply because you're exposed. You're exposed. You're exposed to people you don't even know they exist, to entities you have no idea they exist and what they're gonna do and what they see and what they hear. So lack of privacy is a security risk. Of course, a security risk can be a privacy issue too. Is not guaranteed is a privacy issue, but many times it is. Why? Because your private data has been stolen through a security breach. Why? Because you've been tracked online all the time. Anyone happy with that? Being tracked in things that are obvious, like this click is tracked. Okay. How about the size of your browser screen? As well as what you're looking at in multiple tabs, as well as the date and time and duration and where have you been and how you got there, from where, and where are you located. Precise location, by the way, I'm not talking about a 5 miles radius, I'm talking about a 5 meter radius. How? Well, because your Wi-Fi router has been fingerprinted. That's pretty precise, right? So connecting all these data points, all of a sudden your security posture goes to the dogs. You don't have what your personal security posture I'm talking about. So they are very much related. How they relate that with AI? Through the AI automation tracking, through the AI powered, let's call that AI powered security breaches or attacks, botification, social engineering through, I don't know, impersonated accounts on some social media. There's no person behind them. It's a person behind 10,000 of them The picture that you see have been stolen belong to a real person that had no idea that the picture is used for these purposes. Okay, and a lot of other nasty things. That's why it matters, and that's why we have to look at it very differently than, say, 5 years ago. Yes, that's all I had to say for now.
Yeah, and anyways, I was a bit fearing that, you know what, it should not be a monologue. But yeah, I mean, first of all, we really appreciate what you say. So it's no problem with that. We completely appreciate that. I think there's a lot of to add. So I think, we'll have Bogdan intervening wherever. So I think I'll pass it on to Dr. Roy. But I think you nodded a lot, you agreed on a lot. So let's explore that. What do you think about it? How would you like to add on this? But I think it's a good primer to begin with on liability, at least as he pointed out.
No, absolutely. I think Bogdan structured the pyramid in very subtle way, and these are something that would not be independent of things, right? It not be independent of where we stay, where am I sitting, what am I eating, where am I looking at, right? The globalization has tremendously increased. Let's be very open about it, and primarily the digitalization. We might have been pre-COVID, we might have been talking to somebody on the phone. Now the digital footprint has gone more than 90%, or at least 95% itself, right? Um, Either urban or rural. Now, um, Bogdan, you talked about social engineering, enhanced phishing, right? We have our phone contacts, or contacts, the pings, individuals that we recognize, right? The people that we know. I might get just a phishing call from Avi, who might be a great friend of mine, or maybe just Bogdan for an instance, saying that there is something which is happening right now. Can you just immediately intervene? It might it might create a chaos, and that's what attack is all about, right? You create a chaos, and you create an environment through which you can pressurize the brain. Most of the attacks would be that nature, right? We would not be The warfare going forward, we all know about it, is not going to be a human led, right? It's not going to be we'll take out swords from our chambers and then fight with each other. This is the war that we are talking about. The more people that are getting engaged with each other over the digital nature, right? um, and more so ever, I would say, the social part of the game. Imagine the amount of um, social blueprint which has turned today with generative AI, right? The amount of influencers who have been generated, right? You're looking at Facebook, Instagram, and the social media handles, the number of people who are getting engaged. Great, we are becoming digital, but with that, the number of threats that we are encountering has tremendously overgrown, basically, and now it's becoming exponential. Um, we all know what has happened on 19th July. But one of the things that I would like, because I've been with IoT and manufacturing companies for a long time, right? So I've worked with manufacturers. I have worked on ADAS and autonomous driving and so on and so forth. That's been my passionate area, right? But what I do know is the Internet of Things, right? And the things of things that we talk about, the sensors. Primarily, this is the Falcon sensor, which actually got faulted. There could have been digital twins which could have been created to actually undermine or underplay, right? Or do an elaborate testing. Why not? And I'm not trying to go into solutions. There might be more deeper conversations into it. If you can create a regulation in the pharmaceutical drug industry for looking at clinical trials, why can't you have software trials at the end of the day? You can definitely have software trials, right? That can have, there are steps which are taken independently. There are network operation centers which take care of how devices, sensors, because the world will be full of devices, and that's what this device cost about, right? Just one um, effect and the entire world gets into an outage, right, on this part. And probably this is just a start, and this is actually just to start, right, from that part. Because deepfakes have been there for a long time, but it will become more personal with generative AI, right? That's what we know. Deepfake has been here around for a long time. States use it, governments use it, non-governments use it. There are so many things, right? Where this has been going in. World Economic Forum has been talking about it. But automation of malwares, right, would become much more adaptive. Because please understand, generative AI will make them more adaptive, the malwares itself. So they will become more sustainable when it comes to your environment, right? Even though you want to become cookieless, it still can penetrate there, right? So the threat has become more advanced, faster, deeper, and lesser manageable, basically. The biggest artifact will come into picture where you are getting into consumer driven delivery devices, right? Consumer devices, we are all tech, right? We don't want to wear a monologue watch. We all want to have a digital watch today, right? It tracks our heartbeat. It can track a lot of other things as well, right, on that front. Now, that being said, there are third party security breaches and so on and so forth. But having said all of this, the impact on India, right, especially because it's been with servicing organizations, people across the world, at least starting from the IT till going into manufacturing, it can wreak a havoc. We have seen the airlines, flights, and so on and so forth. It crossed across the world, but primarily from a perspective where India is growing with the digital economy, and emerging countries like India would have different form of cyber security threats, right? And larger and bigger, because for them, India is a lucrative market to breach, right? To be precise, because we all want to get as digital as possible. We are growing in millions, right? On this front, right? We don't eat half of the time food at home. We get it from outside. It's all through apps. Our life is dependent upon a lot of apps. The challenge in that space is, as in, while we are growing digitally, creating applications, but I do not see too much of funding around cybersecurity in India from the startup community to either look at creating applications of that nature, or at least bridging the gap in talent shortage academically as well. So is there a mechanism, because we are trying to teach everybody how to do marketing using generative AI? Can we teach the same student how to understand what is a phishing and what is not? You are talking about getting that kid into being a fresher in my company, but he doesn't even know how should I put his API key in the market, right? And some of us who are working, right, maybe Shirsha might be able to go next and probably give us an understanding, but it is happening. I would not like to name it, but while we are creating more influencers, you need to have more cyber security professionals, at least have education around that industry, right? While we want to make everybody Gen Z and millennials and Gen Alpha, right, understand how great is to get into Instagram and Facebook and live larger life, it is more important for them to be educated with respect to cybersecurity threat. I think where we converse, we'll discuss in more deeper senses, right, from the part. But these threats are real, practical, vulnerable, and it's exponentially growing. Thank you.
Interesting. Yeah, that's a nice perspective, right? So, yeah, I'll let Shirsha add on this maybe. Uh, so, Shirsha, please. Up to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you hear
So,
me?
yeah, I can hear you. We can see you.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, cool. Okay, all right. So, yes, Chiranjeev, as in, I think what you say is right, that, we are, kind of plunging into outcomes without going through the hard yards and understanding how it works, and thereby exposing ourselves to maybe, uncalled for situations, right? But, when I heard of the topic, Abhivardhan, I took a more end-to-end view of it, right? If cybersecurity has to be done right with AI, and maybe this is kind of like, it covers some of the points which Bogdan mentioned, some of the points which Chiranjeev also mentioned. But I'm keen that we look at cybersecurity lens with AI and, kind of look at the perspective from very end-to-end point of view. And by that, I mean, like, let's look at the entire supply chain of an AI product, right? Right from the data that is cultivated, I think, or, scraped or gathered to train the model, to create the solution, and then its consumption, and in a very, systemic, cyclic manner to continue to improve upon it. And I believe that at every stage, we have an opportunity to do things right. And that is not necessarily by being restrictive, but perhaps employing the right, vehicles of responsible AI along the way. And part of it comes from governance. I think we're starting to see a few steps in the right direction, but perhaps there could be a lot done. As you guys rightly mentioned, we are simply not doing enough, and we just don't have as much funding and spotlighting in this space. But for sure, like some of you already hinted, there may be cause for doom, in the near future. And then, we will probably take our governance in the space more seriously. But coming back to, what I had in mind in that end-to-end way, the data that is gathered for any solution, be it something as massive as a GPT, be it for a small model that you're looking to create to do your, time series forecasting, the data that is gathered itself perhaps gives us enough opportunities to, bring in governance, right? And while I think even organizations are starting to be responsible around this, and data brokers can play a bigger role, as well as individuals definitely need to be educated, right? In our consumption of applications, in our consumption of not just application, conveniences, right? So let's say you fill a form to get a ticket to a certain concert. Like, it could be something as simple as that. What does that mean? What are you opening up your information for along the way, right? So it's individual education, and rightfully, as you guys mentioned, this should be part of maybe curriculum starting very soon. Just like how the whole democracy, or how does your country's governance work? Just like that, you should be made aware of how putting in your personal information somewhere can influence certain things for your future. So your data is going to need education at a personal level, is going to need governance coming from a corporate level, as well as from a country's governance level. And also, I think definitely midway between all of these lies consortiums and agencies such as ours, who kind of keep like a ethical check to see if things are kind of going in the right direction, right? I think that's our responsibility as well to the society, to ensure, we are kind of helping to rebalance. So that's one on the data. And the next comes your processes, your tools that you employ in your model development. And therein lies, I think, a huge responsibility on tool providers, platform providers, the big tech, the small tech, anyone along the way. What sort of options are provided in order to ensure that the data is not used in the wrong way, right? And of course, security is definitely an aspect of it, but I think along the way, you definitely want to increase the scope and allow for like security workbenches. You want to allow for white collar hackers to be part of your platform, such that their services could be used by corporates, governments, startups, similarly, right? So like that's your next part. In the training process, and in the solution development, lies in, I think, various opportunities again for solution developers to play a very important role. And while the country's governance can play a role, but I still think there's a bigger role to be played by audit bodies, one which we have not looked into as yet. Now, what I mean is, let us say, you have a solution provider which maybe recommends, based on your recent medicine purchases, your health and fitness updates from the watch that one of you was describing just now. It recommends certain solutions, an opportunity to maybe consult with a fitness guru, or perhaps this new diet idea, right, that is recommended. So they have access to massive amounts of your personal data, and based on which they're giving that recommendation. So solution providers, I think, need to be any day be okay with transparently sharing what aspects of your behavior has been used to make that recommendation. I think one should be clean enough to do that, right? Now, whether governance is pushing for it or not is, I think, is probably going to come in due course of time. But I am recommending this guru is going to be useful for you because I know you have tried this, this, and this. This works for you and this doesn't work for you. So, based on that is why so that transparency, I think, is a cornerstone of us getting the security right. And even if, such a solution provider were to be subject to, let us say, some kind of a data vulnerability, it is possible that then this behavior gets exposed, like, what has worked for you in a very personal way gets exposed to, other companies and, people you don't want to. But nonetheless, I think the fact that they have been collecting this data and they are using this data to make future recommendations is also a responsibility of the corporate, right? I think this is where I personally want to see few more audit bodies play the role of, not just identifying the law and its gaps, but also looking at, how might I develop the solution? What then should I expect the, company to have? Just like how you have this whole credit rating, from a data security and, cybersecurity, responsible AI point of view, is there such a audit that happens today? If not, shouldn't we have one in place, right? So this was, next bit of my supply chain, but subsequently lies its consumption, and then you do definitely want to log user behavior. I do suspect that in the years to come, since we may run out of data, there's this article which has been circulating that we might soon run out of data to train all the GPT on. But I think we will create data out of what exists, and which then means that you will probably end up cultivating it from, let's say, you've left your footprints, right? But what does your footprint mean? So you will probably derive analysis of that behavior and generate data, which is then used to model behavior, right? And in that case, then, I mean, you probably are totally unaware of how your data is going to be used for you, against you, whatever, right? But nonetheless, I think in that feedback loop that I'm talking about, we will see that we will have opportunity to say that can the company keep on circulating my data and my behavior, my usage of apps, sell it around, do more with it, right? And do I get a share of selling my data, right? I've always held the belief that this should be more democratic. If somebody has to benefit from my data, I should also be getting a part of that benefit, right? So can this be more decentralized? Can this be more tokenized, maybe, right? Data is power after all. So these were some of my thoughts, and these don't just stick to one solution. These continue to go into, like, let us say this is a service which is integrated into a larger service and then into a larger service, right? So this goes on to sort of crafting the world bit by bit into how the data from all of us is going to get used to make this world make the data and the solutions useful for all of us, but then also having a say in what works for me and what doesn't work for me.
Yeah, that's an interesting perspective, because to add on that, I think uh, a lot of synthetic content, even at the level of data and text, is scrambling across, and the problem is that's kind of affecting, and I call it a form of contamination of available public data in certain ways. So a sense of trust is also affected. We don't know what's exactly happening, and sometimes it creates a confusion. Like, and that also affects content provenance measures. So I think this is definitely one of the most important points, apart from understanding certain aspects of liability. So to circle before we circle back to Bogdan, Dr. Chiranjiv, and Shirsha again, uh, we have Nupur from the Research Ethics Committee. So sorry, no, yeah, Nupur from the Research Ethics Committee. So Nupur, would you like to ask some questions, or raise some points from a legal perspective, or anything if you wish to? Yeah.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, as we speak about educating regarding the data, where our data is used, what level of privacy uh, is being followed for the data we share. So, as I speak about my experience with this, the my organization where I work, we have a couple of courses they make us do now and then, and if we are receiving any phishing mails or any links via any medium, we are able to mark them as they're phishing, and we can report to IT department. But that's at a very large level where we are working, and there are people who can help us do this. What at a very basic level can we do to educate people? Because in India, if I speak about India, there is a large part of people who don't know much about data privacy or don't know what is AI. As simple as I'll speak about my mother. She recently asked me, what is AI? The Samsung phone that we saw. And she's like, what's AI? So, to make her understand in a very simplified manner what is AI, what it does for you, and how much should you put out, I was a little confused at how to make her understand that. And that I faced with a lot of people that who don't understand what's data. It's okay to like put out data in a bigger space on internet. And I think the generation right now is putting a lot of data on internet, and I don't know how much people are aware of the misuse of whatever we share. So sometimes really fail to understand what are we doing at the basic level to be able to make people understand what type of threat they might go through.
Yeah, that's a good point to begin with, because before we begin with Bogdan or Dr. Roy or anyone, I think of course even in one of the recent discussions happened under NASCOM, maybe long back when Carnegie held their Global Tech Summit. I was there, and the GPI Summit in New Delhi, not the recent one, but the December one. I mean, because the recent one, I just don't wish to comment on that. But December one was actually good. Uh, the December one, when we saw that, there were meetings around, for example, even National Health Authority, right? So, National Health Authority in India collects data for the Ayushman Bharat Yojana and everything. And every single time, even in governance, this problem comes in that, what, lack of awareness causes a lot of issues. And that also exacerbates cybersecurity problems, which is similar to, even the future of work debate, like the whole, I mean, naive debate that what AI is going to replace and all that. Well, in reality, for global South and India, the reality is AI can't replace you. The only thing is, if any AI tool is kind of helping you or making you productive, quote unquote. Again, I'm saying quote unquote. Uh, it may make you more efficient. It may make your profile well worth, but it does not mean that it's gonna completely change the landscape per se, because it's not industrially standardized or viable. We don't know what it is. Maybe it may work in closed contexts. uh, so I think obviously some analogy has to be seen there. So I made that, but I think I found that. So I think I'll ask Bogdan, but I think I'll let Dr. Roy add a little bit, and then I'll circle back to Bogdan. So, yeah. So Dr. Roy, what do you think of Nupur's point? I think, and also what Shisha said. Yeah.
See, I'll start from where I left, right? So Nupur has a very vital point. Yes. Why is AI coming into devices? because as I said, right, we all are in the age of social, right? Everybody, right? Um, Irrespective of the age, irrespective of what you are. One of the other things that human beings always, across generations, right? Um, and now more so ever, right? 20 years back, if you don't know what to do, if you don't know Google, then you are nothing, right? Today, if you don't know how to post your videos and create reels on Instagram, that becomes a FOMO for people and for everybody. Now, with respect to how can we teach each other, one is it has to start from the home, right? As equal to as a conversation. If you can spend, this is my perspective, right? Let me be very independent about it. If I can spend 30 hours learning and going to YouTube, trying to learn how to make a reel, right? Or go manage my Facebook account or Instagram or Twitter, I definitely can help my family understand. And it's very important that we start micro rather than at a broader. That's what I think is the decentralization of information and education is all about. Education starts from home. We need to educate ourselves. If I don't know how to do things, there are few artifacts, because if I expect my state government or my central government to come out with a plan and a proposal, or an university to draft a link that will go to LinkedIn and I'll take a LinkedIn course on cybersecurity, let's keep it aside. It has to start from home. I need to first tell my mom and dad, right? In during the conversations when I'm having a family conversation, India is majorly a family based methodology, right? We want to stay intact, at least till it is that level. Gen Zs have a different way of thinking, right? At this point of time, I do not know about the Gen Alpha, but at least we have that trend thing coming into picture where we can go ahead and all of us discuss what's been happening, what is going around, right? Now the challenge is that the family does not eat together, right? Everybody is on WhatsApp, so at least use that WhatsApp information, spread that information, whatever the basic information that you can gather in the language that you can understand. And you would always like to learn from a person whom you trust the most, right? And that's where the point comes into picture. How would you bring that trust? I try to teach my child how much it is possible and what he should not put up on internet, what should we not put, right? What kind of discussions he should not have it in school. Basically, we all have to do that diligence from ourselves. Yes, there can be curriculums which can be created. There are great books that can be written, right? There are dummies on cybersecurity as well, but ultimately it has to start from here, right? It has to start from the grounds up, right? On this perspective, otherwise the first biggest thing is the social and the financial. These are the two major things that we all have been threatened about. Those are the highest of the threats, the two most threats that you would be vulnerable with, basically, right? Your banks, you, as in India, is everything is about UPI. 98% of the payments we do with UPI start with that information. Where should you not put? How should you not pay, right? This is something that we have to do grounds up, basically, rather than me waiting for my government to come up with a proposal and it becomes a literacy mission or maybe a malaria mission, right? Which government of India is definitely thinking about right now at this point in time, but which takes planning and execution at a larger mass scale, as a 140 crore people, right, of India, to be educated and liberated about it, start from basics, start from home, start from ground. That's my thought.
Yeah. And before Bogdan adds, I'll just quickly say one more thing. Just one thing, like, I mean, just a few seconds actually. This kinda also shows that, this also reminds us of how DPI awareness becomes important, because this. So I think Shirsha and I wrote a report, right? And we mentioned about aspects of PPI and Gen AI. If there could be a possibility to implicate and see things in 5 different sectors, and yeah, so I think definitely awareness is definitely an issue for a country like India, and I think this keeps becoming like a quicksand situation, like a downward spiral sometimes. So of course that needs to be seen. But yeah, Bogdan, the floor is yours. I think you can add more and please up.
Yeah, the ground up. Education is the biggest driver for all this. Hackers are actually very educated, by the way. I'm not talking education like going to some college, I don't know, even MIT, and I have the diploma and I have a wall full of certification. How many certification the guys reaching your network have? Negative, if they could be a negative, they will have negative, minus, zero, none, because, they're pointless, is it? They're just pointless. They don't give you understanding. They don't give you practice. They're checkbox exercises most of the time. I would think all the time, but let's say most of the time. That's not how you get to do big things, by checking boxes. That's not how it works. If Marie Curie would have, checking boxes in her research, she wouldn't have ever discovered the radius ever. Just, you would be radium ever. So we wouldn't have X-rays, by the way, because of that. So the basics need to be understood, experienced, because otherwise, they can't be understood. Nobody can understand without experiencing it. You can get informed by reading stuff and watching stuff, yes. You can get knowledge, but that's useless, by the way. Knowledge without practice is useless. And that goes back to data. I think everybody talked about the data. What is the value of data? The value of data is exactly the value of the use of that data. If the data sits somewhere, it just sits there in an archive. It has exactly zero value. Why? Because nobody does anything with it. Nobody accessing it, nobody reads it, nobody moves it, nobody transforms it, nobody does nothing. Useless. But the moment somebody accesses it, it starts having value. What is that value? Well, depends who is accessing it and why and how much and when and from where and what does with that reading after that. It could be huge value, it could be little value, but it's certainly not zero at all. There's also a big social aspect in this education, which is, I would say, it's the most important, more important than anything else, which is the family aspect and the way people live their lives aspect. Living your life on a screen, it renders you insecure, not less secure, insecure, unsecure. Why? Because you don't interact with people. I mean, you would think that you listen to me right now, but you're not. You're listening to your speakers or to your headsets. That's not the same thing, right? Yes, it's in very near real time, for sure. It has value, for sure. No, I don't think anyone disputes that. But it's not the same as eating together and talking. It's not the same as going on a street or in a park and talking about stuff and shaking hands and rubbing shoulders and whatnot. It's not the same. There's a reason why groups of animals exist. One of the reasons is, of course, security. That's why hyenas work together and dingo dogs work together and bees work together and wasps work together and so on. Yes, there are solitary animals, true, for sure. It's not like you have to be in a group, but all those that are solitary are less secure than those that are in families. No exceptions. You would say, but what about the amoeba? Yes, but the amoeba, it's a very simple life form. So the more complex the life form, the less secure it is, because it's getting almost complicated. There are moving parts in that body, which means security liabilities in the end, safety liabilities, right? A lion has to eat a lot. An amoeba doesn't. A lion has to adapt in more aspects than the amoeba, a lot more aspects. So it's the same with people. People are social living beings. You know, family is important, and for good reasons, because people are designed to be social people. And what is the greatest problem for people? Isolation. Being alone. That's the biggest problem, right? You know, that's the biggest problem. Not food on table. Yes, of course, you can't live without eating for 100 days. True. But the way to get that food is through social connections. It's not going out there like a leopard and feed yourself. It's not going to be sustainable. You're going to die in the end. You're not going to have enough. You know, here and there, but not enough. Eventually you will die. But through your network of people, then yes, becomes exponentially easier. So living on a screen not going to give you that. You say, but I'm networking on the screen. Yeah, but it goes nowhere in the end. In the end, you shut the screen and you're all alone. That's what it is. So, not eating together, that goes down to not eating together. Not eating together, it's a very big problem because the most social event in the life of anyone or any person or any human being is not a wedding, is not a funeral, is not a birth, is not going to movies, is not that. And is not having a diploma or a golden certificate on a wall. Is not that. It's eating together. In any form of shape. Doesn't have to be a restaurant. I mean, you can eat in a picnic type of setting. You can eat by, I don't know, on some street shop, at home, in so many places, in so many ways, but you're eating together. That is the most social event in the life of a human being anywhere in the world, you know, any time in history of humankind. If you eat when you're looking at a screen, you're not eating together. And your mind is not into the social aspect. Your mind is somewhere else. You're getting stressed out. You don't chew properly. You harm your body. You harm your everything because you're looking at a screen and you're not eating together. Even if you eat alone but no screens involved, that is still better than looking on a screen. Whatever that screen is, could be a TV, right? Laptop, phone, whatever that is. Just don't look at the screen when you eat. Look on a window outside. Yes, not on a screen. Don't multitask, don't know nothing. So because people don't come together for the most important event of their life, which is eating together. By the way, you have a wedding, you eat. Do you think that's by mistake? Do you think that those people in the Mahabharata, were they stupid? Were they primitive? They weren't. They weren't primitive, no matter what some techie said or some billionaire says. They were not primitive and they were anything but stupid. They were doing exactly what they were supposed to do. You get a wedding, you eat together for hours and days on end potentially. I mean, of course, don't overeat. True, that's bad. But I'm just saying it's together. It's not going to be a wedding otherwise, right? It's going to be nothing. At a funeral, people eat. Yes, they don't overjoy, but they eat together. That alleviates the pain. That's a big deal. They're also secure because if somebody has to be attacked, it's one target versus 10, 50, 5,000. Numbers bring security. It's known, right? Right. So going to McDonald's and eating alone on some sandwich of sorts, you'd laugh at this. Makes you less secure. Because you don't have your connections that you're designed to have. So you're not going to educate yourself. Why? Because no matter how hard you try, you always get educated better through your peers and your network. Always. Why? Because it's an exchange of experiences. When you talk to people, they express how they feel. That comes straight out of the experiences, which you don't have to clean them up like you have to do with messy data that is collected. Okay. That's straight from source, not through intermediaries. That makes it much more trustworthy. It's accessible. Why? Because it's communicated through, physical movements and facial expressions and the tone of the voice and all that. It is a huge amount of information that is very easily ingested and understood. It is the most efficient and effective way of learning. How difficult it is to learn from an online course? A lot more difficult than in class, is it? But it's the same course, and you can rewind, and you can copy paste notes. It's still more difficult. Why? Because you can't ask questions, you cannot interact, you experience a screen, not a person. That's why. And the class, nobody else asks questions that you say, oh, that answers my question. Oh, I didn't think of that. That's not the instructor, by the way. It's a colleague of yours that asking those questions, and so on. All that interaction is missing. That's why it's more difficult. So it has its value, but don't educate yourself just on online courses. Use that as a tool rather than that. What does that mean? It means that you're less secure. That's what it means. That's what it means. Putting intermediaries, usually, if it's education in the scope, makes you less secure. Intermediaries, which is a piece of plastic with a screen on top powered up and through the internet that is fingerprinted by entities that you have no idea they exist. Who are those entities? Your ISP provider, internet provider, that's one. The cloud provider where that online course resides, that's another. The data brokers, which are by the thousands and thousands, these are others. And so back and so forth. But you think you're in your comfort of your home, and that's what the hyperartist told you, right? Learn from your comfort of your home. Great, isn't it? Except it's not that great. You would say, yeah, but I'm getting outside, I'm having more exposed. You're supposed to be exposed because otherwise, how can you learn? So yes, being exposed, but in a natural way, which is by design from your inception when you were born. That's okay. Being exposed to in unnatural way that are artificial, that's what makes you less secure. Because you do not have native mechanisms to deal with that. And because it adds abstraction, a lot of abstraction to your life. Abstraction means complexities, but also means complications. You ask the question, what is data? Nobody knows what data is. It has no definition, no agreed definition. But we do know one thing, that most important information is not in the data. Most information is not in the data. Your experiences are not in the data. Your feelings are not in the data. Your thinking is not in the data. The data definitely, it's a way of expressing yourself, right? When you write things down, for sure, is valuable as long as it's used in a certain way. Yeah, so it comes with the use of it. But not understanding that actually data is your most important asset makes you less secure. These days, data is your most important asset. And guess what? It's not defined. So your most important asset does not have an agreed definition. Money has a definition. Your house has a definition. I know your jewelry have definitions, but they are not your most important asset anymore. It's your data, right? Do you learn that from an online course? No. You learn from maybe somebody that experiences that and talks to you. That's not on an online course. And that's important. So eating together, getting together in physical shapes and events, whatever they are, is very critical to your security, to your business security. If you have a business, go out and meet other businesses, business owners, clients, customers, and so back and so forth, formally or informally. I always try to go at conferences at least 3-4 times a year for this very reason, in person. I always. What does that have to do with AI? Well, it's a way of understanding that automation that is everywhere. I'm connecting with Abi Vardan at a conference and we don't have to exchange business cards anymore. We can do, but we just touch our phones 3 centimeters away and we get connecting on LinkedIn. That's a lot of automation right there, right? There you go. You can't do that from remote through a screen, is it? I'm just saying. So that's where I see education going. Yes, definitely from the ground up. Definitely start with the basics. You know, what is automation in the end? What is automation built in? On feedback loops. Everything is about feedback loops. What's a feedback loop? Why is it important? Some examples. Breathing is a feedback loop. In, out. Can you live without breathing out? Not in. In we know. You don't have oxygen, you die. But what about not breathing out? Can you? You're gonna die, right? You don't breathe out, it means you cannot inhale, you die. That's a feedback loop. Your circulatory, your heart is part of a feedback loop. It has actually at least 2 feedback loops, the big one and the small one. Otherwise you die. You cut that, the artery. You say, well, you die because your artery is cut and you lose blood. True, but you also because the feedback loop is cut. So it doesn't close. The water circulation is a feedback loop. Life and death is a feedback loop. Everything is about feedback loops. That's the way I understand automation. How many prime ministers and bigwigs and politicians understand that? Yet they drawn up policies. Policies are feedback loops. Why? Because you're applying to society, to people, to whoever, and they have an effect on people, positive, negative, in between, and then that effect comes back to affect the policies. How? Well, through the Bangladeshi riots, for example. Right? 100 plus deaths because of a policy of quotas in government jobs. So the policy exists, affect people, this time in bad ways. People revolt, death happen, policy gets hopefully changed. That's a feedback loop. Cut that feedback loop and the country disappears. You say you're joking. I'm not joking. All civilization disappeared because of feedback loops being cut. They didn't disappear because they're too poor. No, the Roman Empire was very wealthy, disappeared when it was wealthy. The Maharaja disappeared when they were wealthy. They did not disappear because they're poor. They disappeared when they're wealthy. How? Because they got disconnected from what matters. Feedback loop was cut. Feedback loops, because there are many, cut. So, basics. I think I talked enough about, so
Yeah.
you got the point.
Yeah, no, so all right. I think the best part of this discussion is this, anyways, will be out on YouTube. Is that this kind of creates a good momentum because we listed out a lot of discussion points, anyways, for this session, but I think it's a good thing to open out, because while in the research ethics committee we all have discussions on academic questions, so that we see, because the idea is then once this documentation happens in the coming months, we'll see if standards can be developed at maybe a market level or maybe at a professional level. Man, the idea we have is we're not asking for legal standards right now. It may be something at a basic HR level, or maybe at a knowledge management level, because uh, a lot of problems around data and algorithmic infrastructure start with these practices. And if it's market friendly, professional friendly, then I think it's a good way to go forward. So I think this is the initial way to do it. So I'll let Shirsha add quickly. And Nupur, Prabhat, if you have any points to add in the end, we'll have you. And yeah, questions are awaited. Please feel free to give questions. Maybe we have 5 minute window. So once Shirsha is done, then maybe,
I was, tempted to suggest that we do this as a series. And again, just a suggestion, because I think each bit where we delved into, right, definitely, I think we can go into several details and come up with points. And this was a very rich, fruitful discussion. Some of the points which Bogdan mentioned and Chiranjiv, Dr. Roy mentioned, I think they are very insightful for me. They are aligning with some of my personal observations. It even went beyond our discussion and into philosophical realm, if you ask me, right? I definitely want to ask or recommend or suggest, request you if we can do like a series where we go into each of these aspects. Like the data itself is one. However, that was not where Bogdan started off, and he kicked us off at the start of this evening, right? So, each of these I think could be like a micro session that we go into and get into more details. And thank you so much for setting this up. This was very useful.
great, I
And
appreciate that.
just to add on, to that, Avi and team, which series? See, now the Gen Z and the alphas are also coming in, right? Including our parents, right? Including all of us as well. So
Yeah.
microblogging, right? Use communication. Let's over communicate. I think that's the key
Yes.
today, right? Let's
Totally.
over communicate.
And they want like a
Probably
crisp
if the need of the
checklist.
hour is
This,
So
right? They
if the
want like
need
a
of the
crisp
hour is
checklist.
that Abhi has to create 20 reels a week, Abhi, let's go ahead and create it, right? So it is you need to encourage the society to come up, basically, right? If people can be travel bloggers, we can educate the society as well. At least whatever that we learn and get, and there might be more people who will be coming up, because as Bogdan said, we all need to eat together. Sometimes it will not happen, basically. So we need to adapt as well. Yeah.
Yeah, feedback well taken. Because I think this is again a 101 session. So I think what we can do is we will actually cover specific aspects. Like we could have covered specific ones, but I think it was a good way to give it a boost to begin with, because the documentation that will come out of it will give a basic perspective on the current aspects around data, algorithm, infrastructure, and awareness. I think these are the four aspects, because frameworks of accountability and liability are around these four in cybersec and infosec, in my view. So I think we'll take it that way, because I think that could help us a lot. And while it's good for awareness, it could also be good for standardization. Otherwise, discussions keep happening anyways. So I think we'll have a
Hello,
series.
hello everyone. Yeah,
Yeah,
am I audible?
Prabhat.
Yes, bro.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you're audible. You're
yeah.
audible.
Actually, I have a question on accountability of AI, that in a society, when we give information to the children or adults, so there is a concept of filtering of information, right? We give our children's but in the age of AI, the age of ChatGPT, Perplexity, and other things, so how can we decide that whether that person who is searching for that matter, whether he requires that information or not, whether he should be given that information or not, and whether this information will help him or her in a better way, or it will harm their mental status or other things? So any note on that?
I think maybe anyone can add. Bogdan, you can just
Can you
add
add,
what.
can you be more specific? Because I mean, there's no one size fits all, and yeah, the principle is the same. but you know, I can resume the principle in one word, caring. But what does that mean? Because you don't have the same care for everyone every single second of your life, right? It's just not how life works. But it is about caring. So if you can be a bit more specific of maybe it's one situation or another, one context or another, what do you mean by what you just said? Is it a specific situation? Is it specific situations? Some examples.
Like if any students have graduate just passed out intermediate, just passed out, and he is searching about anything that he cannot understand, but just want to just search and see the things about AI and want to understand the LLM model, and he cannot understand, but he want to do in he want to learn AI, but he just start to search in the LLM model, but he cannot understand mentally that thing. So if he will go to a teacher or a professional, then the teacher or professional will teach him basics, then will go to the LLM, then other thing. So we have a sequence, we have that we will teach him this, and then after this, filtering of information, right? In semester 1 we give this, and semester 2 we will give this information, or he is not the right person to give this information. Yeah, he has some other personality, so he should be taken this choice or that choice. So I am asking question in this context.
Where is the harm you have doubts that will come into this context where somebody wants to learn, but there's a structure. That learning is not
harm
chaotic.
in that way, yes, harm in that way that if he just started to understand LLM and he cannot understand, so he may end up he may leave that I cannot understand the AI, so he may leave the field, but actually he can understand, but he started just wrong. So this may go wrong, this may go chaotic.
That's not really a harm. Maybe he actually does the right thing leaving, because a level of understanding will be gotten, right? Is maybe less than desired. That is possible. But
And
my view is that why you want to understand it. Number one, I want to understand it because everybody talks about it. I have no idea what does it mean for me. So the answer is I want to learn it because it seems to be everywhere. I can't see it, and I'm afraid. Should I be afraid? Or I want to make something out of it. I don't know, become a millionaire. Okay, that's the aim, becoming a millionaire. Can I use this to become a millionaire? That's a fair choice, right? A fair aim. Or I'm just curious. It's very good to be curious. I'm just curious. Everybody talks about it. Is it that great? Or is it that spooky? Or is it that harmful? Or is it both great and harmful in the same time? For me, as a European in London, for example, like make it personal, make it personal. That is, you know, knowing your purpose when you go that way, because it's not going to be a short journey. It's not going to be something like reading an article here and there. That's not going to be that. It's going to be for a long period of time. How long? Not a month or 2 or 3 or 6. Indefinite. You know, consider it more than a year. Okay, let's not say the whole life, but more than a year. And you have to keep at it. You have to keep at it. And you have to sweat, and you have to try your hands on. And there's free tools today that you, as long as you have a clear purpose and you're committed to the effort, then yes. MIT, Stanford, they have entire curriculum for free online on AI. They start small. Almost anyone can do it. It's not gonna take a month or 2 or 3. You have to keep at it. So you have to discipline yourself. That's why you have to have that purpose very much embedded into yourself, because you're doing that for that purpose. At some point, after 2 months, let's say, of sweat, you could very well say, this is enough for me. I get enough. I am no point pursuing that direction anymore at this granular level, at the next level, because it gets complex and it gets complicated. It's not going to be as easy as at the beginning. And that could be a very valid choice, because